Okay, we're going to go ahead and start our Facilities and Transportation meeting, 4/11/22. If you're part of the committee, please announce your name. I'm Kevin Strobel.
Russ Jarrett.
Joy Olson.
Ron Rowley.
Kristen Thompson.
Ryan Bob. Brett Cooper.
Okay. So we might as well go ahead and get started. Brian, Library Restoration Project update?
Yeah, quick update on the library. Painting of the main library area has been completed. Restored order, we installed.
Is your microphone on? Okay.
How about now?
Yep, that's better. What was your first sentence? I missed it.
The painting of the main
The painting.
library has been completed. Restored order started assembling the back panels for the shelving today. They are going to be installing the shelving around the perimeter the rest of this week. And as soon as that's completed, they will be installing the flooring.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that should be happening over the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you think?
Yes.
Okay.
The original hanging light fixtures were damaged in the process, and some of that support hardware can no longer be reused. Therefore, they are replacing those light fixtures with a similar item, which would be LED instead of fluorescent tubes.
And that's not part of the insurance claim, though?
It is.
Oh, it is?
Since it happened during the process,
Wow.
that additional cost will be absorbed into the claim.
A windfall.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what it is. Another quick update on the intermediate center retaining wall repairs. Boyer Engineering posted the retaining wall repair project on Penn bid as of March 30th. It also posted in the Reading Eagle on March 30th and April 13th. There's a pre-bid meeting on April 14th.
What was it changed in regards to? Is there anything that sticks out? I didn't see it, so.
Nothing has changed since we last talked about it.
Okay.
The engineer was concerned about metal capping and little kids being able to get their fingers behind it and have a cutting hazard. If we decided that we wanted an alternate with the metal capping,
Right.
just because of the accessibility to those areas, it was a concern there, which is why they wanted to put the replacement caps.
Okay. And when is the bid meeting?
Pre-bid meeting scheduled for Thursday, April 14th at 10 a.m. at the Intermediate Center. And the contractor bids are due by April 22nd at 10 a.m.
Okay.
Next topic is proactive maintenance agreement for the school district for our food service equipment, our kitchen equipment, our walk-in refrigerators, freezers, heating equipment. We have been shopping preventative maintenance agreements with a few different contractors. We are currently under contract, or were under contract with Clark Service Group. They have been averaging around $9,675 for their annual preventative maintenance agreement. Just recently, I've been concerned with some of the prices for their repairs as well. We have shopped the price with a few other vendors for the same scope of work, and K&D Factory has come up significantly less each time, and we use them for minor repairs. They threw a number at a proactive maintenance agreement, which came in at $6,200 for the entire district versus the $9,675 with Clark Service Group.
Now, that just covers them checking and an annual, like a walkthrough and check it and make sure things,
Checking all the
cleaning too?
safeties, checking, the equipment,
Okay.
full hands-on diagnostics. K&D factory, sir.
So it was Clark and K&D came in at 65?
So I would like to proceed with approval for an annual agreement, and with their agreement, they offer a 3-year option to hold the pricing
Okay.
for the maintenance agreement. So I would like to get approval to sign up for a 3-year agreement.
I do have a question. When we sign a maintenance agreement, are we bound to let them do the repair, or can we still shop and have somebody else come and do the repair? It's just for the maintenance,
We
right?
could do that, which is why I was able to quote some of the Clark work and turn
think-
down their proposals.
I think it sends a message. I mean, just because you have the maintenance agreement doesn't mean we're going to take every price you give me. I mean, we still I think the shopping process just tightens everybody's bid up a little bit. I want them to make money. I'm not saying don't make any money, but I don't want you to gouge me. It's the biggest problem. So no, okay, that's great. So you'd like us to? Any questions on that one? I'm good with that. It's less money and it sounds like they're reputable. I mean, does anybody have?
They've
Is there
done
any?
a great job. The quality of the work is it's just exceptional.
You want to bring it up in our next?
Clark has been the one contractor that we were using, but K&D is just, they've communicated that much better. The paper trail has been much cleaner. We're not having any confusion with invoices. And the prices are way better. I'm talking anywhere from $300 to $700 difference in some of the work that they've done compared to Clark.
So parts-wise, are they using OEM, are they using aftermarket, or are they, what's their parts inventory?
I don't know what their parts inventory is like, to be honest with you. I'm sure they're pulling from the same vendors as everybody else.
Okay. Any objections to that? We'll bring it before. Would that be it tonight then? Bring it up in the committee or next time? Not for vote.
Bring it up for, we bring it up.
For the voting committee, the next voting
It would be
committee.
part of your.
So it'd be 65 what? And that would be for the annual with a 3 with an option.
6,200.
6,200?
For an annual repayment
006200. Okay.
with the option to lock in for a 3-year agreement.
Okay.
Same price.
Okay. Good find.
Next topic, HVAC repairs. I'm keeping this one light. Training has diagnosed 3 failed VAV controllers here at the high school. They have a quote for $3,897 for the replacement. These are proprietary items with training. I just want approval to go ahead with the expenditure. These control
And these are controllers, so it doesn't work without
temperature
them.
and fresh air.
Right. So it doesn't work without them.
Exactly.
Okay.
They're critical.
Any objection? Nope. Okay.
Gotta have it.
I got it.
My next item on here has to do with capital improvement with the high school boiler room.
Okay.
As you guys are aware, we had to do an emergency boiler install over the winter due to equipment and mechanical failures. In follow-up to that, there's other work that has been noted with groundwater issues due to a hot water storage tank in the boiler room, the remainder of the wall-hung Canadian water heaters that are steadily declining. We also discovered that we have a bad heat exchanger for the building. The heat exchanger is leaking internally, so you have to mixing up the fluids. This could lead to a potential no heat situation next heating season. Berkshire Mechanical was the one that did the boiler install originally. Their in-house engineer came up with some ideas. One to replace the hot water storage tank, which is causing the groundwater. We don't necessarily know for sure what the age of that tank is, and we're a afraid to open it up and peek around because we don't know what the condition is. The other scope of that work is to remove those tankless water heaters and replace them with 4 commercial natural gas water heaters. That would take the place of the hot water storage tank that's contributing to the groundwater issue. In addition to repiping that, we could also put in crossover valves in the event that the boiler has an issue and it fails. We could also rely on those hot water heaters to provide heat in the heating loop.
So, again, just so I understand it, we're going to replace the hot water containment with hot water heaters. And the total volume of those heaters equals the size of the tank?
With 4 of them, yes.
4 of them together equal the size of the tank, but each individual one can heat. So we've got a boiler, and then we've got heaters, and those heaters won't run unless the boiler fails.
That'll separate your domestic from the heat loop.
Pardon?
That'll separate your domestic water from your heat loop.
Okay, I got you. We're still going to completely separate the units, but we're going to have 5 units instead of 1 big boiler.
Correct.
Cost-wise, how's that look? I mean, I
For
understand.
this-
I understand the concept of having backup, and maybe you don't lose your domestic.
With the heat exchanger replacement, the removal of the hot water storage tank, the repiping, the hot water heaters, it's Berkshire's proposing $107,000.
Right.
Uh,
And for a new heat exchanger and a new tank,
That they did not want to go. Just for getting away from that option and making it a little bit more efficient.
does it feel efficient to you? I mean, we're going with 5 heaters instead of 1 storage tank and a heat exchanger. It just doesn't. It doesn't feel that way. I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just,
We will gain efficiency in our
We're
gas
gonna gain-
usage. We will gain efficiency in our gas usage if we have 3 or 4 units and they don't all have to run at the same time.
Correct.
One thing I want to ask is, so we will no longer have any units that need us to have a designated hot water tank, or we will have to get someone else to price out one?
Yes and no. The hot water heater would be similar to what you would have in your house. It would be its own vessel. But it would just be a more commercial capacity to take the place of what we have.
so based on volume, they feel like they're going to guarantee that we're not going to run out of hot water, because with a big heater coming off a boiler, you got a big pile of water sitting there. Really hard to run
Well,
out.
that's why you have
That was
tankless
part of the
tanks.
BTU calculation for the entire building. That was done with their in-house engineer.
So the one that we have that is currently storing all the groundwater we can ever want, is that, so what is the capacity on that if it were full?
I'm not 100% sure what the
And
actual
what
number
we are
is.
suggesting to put in to replace it would be significantly smaller, about the same?
According to Berkshire Mechanical's in-house engineer, we would be sufficient.
Would it be smaller?
Smaller,
we have right
smaller
now.
in space, physical space, yes,
Okay.
but capacity-wise, we're going to meet the demand.
Yeah, so is it going to be the same as what we have, or is it going to be smaller?
Don't quote me because
Okay.
I'm guessing as far as the exact number of
Okay.
gallons of capacity.
Is it something we have to go
And
to?
that would be in addition to the 107,000?
No, this was a total package.
Okay.
107,000 versus the cost of a heat exchanger. I don't have a good point of reference for heat exchanger. I can't imagine. And again, we might
Now,
save
the
some
other-
how many how many years you have to fast forward, and how long
Absolutely, I
how
understand,
long's the units, like buying a Prius? Okay, you spend
So-
$6,000
but it
more, but you
doesn't
save
work the way we have it
your
now.
savings in gas. The batteries run out before.
But
So
it doesn't work well the way we have it now, because if you use it with poor quality water, you're, scouring out the insides of it. It's going to need a lot of maintenance, right?
So
if we need to replace it anyway, I think that 107,000 sounds like the ballpark of reasonable. But if the choice was that or live along with what we have, yeah, that's a lot of money.
I'm a little concerned about the other alternative. When
No, I
you start
understand.
to get engineers involved and the price associated with expecting a new system, what those numbers will look like.
My only concern is we're taking a hot water tank, which is really what mechanical parts are on a hot water tank, an overfill flow, you know, and the inside of maybe being cleaned, and we're going to stuff all that dirty water into now a unit that's actually going to heat and disperse and do all the other things. I mean,
Well, no, you wouldn't use the same.
It's going to go into a hot
Take
water
the same
heater.
wa- But you wouldn't take the same water.
why wouldn't you take the same water? Why would, we have access to dirty water for our heat. I mean, not that we're going to have the heat, but to run through pipes. We have access to not potable water that we can only run through that one boiler.
Oh,
and
I
everything.
thought you meant like I thought you meant that the water was getting around because of what we were storing it in, not that it was coming in.
It's because of the actual storage tank and water quality certainly affects the metals.
Right.
So it could corrode, a new one could corrode the same way, is that what you're saying?
In how many years? That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I don't know. That's my only.
Is
Again,
this the same tank that Steve talked
This is
about?
the same exact tank that we discussed with Steve earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the size of
it's a big tank. Yeah, no, I get it. I understand. I thought, again, I just looked them up. I
You're
mean,
just
the
asking what the
national
life
average for a heat exchanger is 2,000. Let's make it 10 times as much. It's 20 grand. We're still looking at you're looking at $87,000 to offset that cost, and then the maintenance on 4 separate water. I'm not opposed to it. It just doesn't, it's not logical to me. It's not making logical sense. And then to refuse to bid it the other way causes me caution. And I'm sure Berkshire's a great company, but I just don't understand why they would want to do it.
Which buildings?
This is for the high school.
So the pass-through system that involves no storage is not an option because it's too big?
Well, I mean, we're limited to the space requirements that we have.
Okay.
Don't you have tankless water heaters now?
We do have the tankless ones, and the water quality is just
Crap.
short.
Right. Well, I don't oppose it just because of me. It just doesn't make doesn't make any sense to me. But if you feel strongly that this is the only other option we have,
What's your alternative?
I don't understand why we can't keep with a boiler and a tank. I mean, that's what they put in however many 30 years ago.
We can price it as an alternative if that's the direction that you would like to consider.
I think we should look at it. I mean, I don't want to lose heat like tomorrow because we didn't act on this, but I don't think they're going to put it in tomorrow. I think it's worthwhile looking at it. I'd like to hear why they feel that it's not a good option anymore. You know, I mean, they're selling me 4 mechanical items that we now have to take care of versus one big boiler. So is the boiler already purchased?
There was never one big boiler. There were about 12 wall-hung tankless water heaters
That fill that big tank?
that were filling that big tank.
Okay. And they're going away?
Half of them are, I would say, 4 of them have already, 4 or 5 have already been.
No, I meant like with the new solution we have, they're gonna put a larger boiler in, and then 4 items. We end up with 1 big boiler and 4 small ones instead of 12 small tankless heaters.
In conjunction with the boiler that was already installed. It's actually a high-efficiency space saver, so it really takes up a small footprint. But
Right. And the boiler that was installed installed to handle filling that tank when they originally scoped the work?
that was designed for the heating load, the building heat.
Okay, I got
The
you.
others are in consideration
For the-
domestic.
For domestic, so okay. It is what it is. I mean, if we're losing 12, I mean, for 4,
And that boiler that was designed for building heat.
probably
Is
oversized.
that what it's doing right now? Is it providing heat or is it just?
It has been, but
Okay.
that was what we had to put in at the time. Now, the heat exchanger failure was discovered in the process.
Right.
So that's a very critical component that.
Yeah.
So what happens with that boiler now since the heat exchangers? Are we still going to have to replace the heat exchanger?
That heat exchanger needs to be replaced.
Anyway, so we're going to have to replace the exchanger anyway.
If you don't replace it now, you could potentially lead into a no.
To failure.
How old is that boiler? How old is the boiler?
Got to be 30
The
years.
one that we have?
20, 30
The
years.
boiler, the one boiler that we have is just installed this year. Over there. When we had no heat, couldn't maintain
Yeah.
temperature and heat.
So we have a boiler that was originally designed, not of anybody's fault, that just, they designed it to fill that tank and work with the 12 units that are up there. That's what we have now. And then in the process of installing it, they discovered the exchanger bad, right?
Originally, back when the building was built, we had one larger boiler.
Okay.
And years had gone by, and I don't know who designed the tankless water heaters, the 12 or 14 that were originally installed to handle that building.
It was Berkshire. No, I'm kidding. They sold us 12 tankless water heaters. No, I'm kidding.
But we still have some of those tankless water heaters remaining.
Right.
Serving more on the domestic load, which is what we're trying to accomplish, is to replace them with the Bradford White EF100 commercial hot water heaters and eliminate the groundwater situation with the storage tank.
Right. I get the tank, but the heater we bought originally was going to be put in place, and it was going to go through that exchanger, which is now no good, and it was going to fill that tank. That's originally what the boiler was bought for. So now we're gonna for the heating loop. So now we need to buy an exchanger anyway, right? And we're gonna replace the 12, which are only 6 are running right now. We're gonna replace the 12 of those with 4, or we're gonna replace the 6 with 4 and keep the other 6 running.
We're going to replace what's left with 4.
So there's 6 missing. We're gonna take the 6 ones that are there now, and there's gonna be 4 left.
That'll
Okay.
handle your domestic load plus
I got you.
more capacity.
Plus the domestic.
Where the idea of installing a crossover valve,
I got you.
if there is an issue with the boiler,
I got you.
at any point in time, you can open that crossover valve and supplement the heat loop.
So it won't be completely without you. It won't heat the building, but it'll be better than 0.
Correct.
I got you. That makes sense. So it's a backup
What
plan.
alternatives
Just as a
did you want them
fail-safe.
to try out?
I didn't understand why they wouldn't want to go and stick with the plan that's already in place. 'Cause we already bought the boiler to fit that, right? And so in the process of them assessing the boiler, probably they should have took a look at the exchange. To me, that would make sense. I mean, you're right there, you're unbolting it. The other thing too is it's like a day tank. I mean, we just had one put in our church, and it's like, it was frustrating because we no sooner got done and the day tank was bad. So it's where they store all this stuff. So we're kind of getting down, it's like a path you head down instead of giving you one price. But now I feel like maybe it's possible. I'm not saying it's bad, but you have a boiler that was going to fill that thing. Now it's just going to do a continuous loop. Is that what it's going to do instead of having a tank? The boiler we have now, is that going to go into what they call, it would be a continuous loop, full time?
It still has the return loop.
So it's just going to go around the return loop with no tank.
Right, so there's no holding tank.
So no holding
So
tank.
that eliminates the groundwater issue.
Yeah, I understand that, yeah. And then you could remove the tank. So.
They tried to simplify the system without over-engineering.
Right.
Make it
And a tank doesn't heat water, it just holds hot water.
Correct.
So that it can handle the volume. If all of a sudden we have a high demand for heat, that tank's going to be able to serve that demand better and greater and faster than the tank than it is now. That's my only concern. So but they're going to guarantee all that stuff, and I think there are questions we need to ask. And you're going to take that tank away. The purpose of a tank is for when there's all of a sudden a high demand for whatever reason, that tank can feed all these individual places, whereas now you're going to have this one loop feeding everything, and so it could cause additional stress. If they're willing to back that up, and I guess they are, they're engineers, so I mean, you just feel like,
I can get that in writing if you'd like.
yep, I believe you. Again, you've looked at it, I'm good. So is the heat exchanger not part of the 107?
It is.
Oh, it is part of the 107, okay. I see.
The removal of the existing old units, the removal of the storage tank,
Gotcha.
the removal and replacement of the heat exchanger, the installation of the floor board.
Okay. This is your alley, so I mean, if you feel comfortable with what they're proposing as well, I mean, I never asked you that. I'm asking the questions of them. Do you feel comfortable with the engineering?
I do.
Then I think we should move forward with it.
They spend a lot of time in our facility, and
Gotcha.
that's a huge plus because they know the ins and outs of our systems.
I got you. Any opposed? 107 what?
Flat.
Hmm?
Flat.
107 flat.
$107,200.
Oh. Plus $200.
And that's for a boiler and 4 heaters.
Heat exchangers.
And then, right, and the heat exchanger.
Heat exchangers, and a heat exchanger.
That's running the gas lines, it's running the additional electric.
Right.
Plumbing the headers, installing the valving. And the removal of that mammoth storage tank.
Well, thank you for,
That's gonna be a feat in itself.
I'm sure it's going to be.
The next topic for capital improvements was high school doors.
Didn't we just vote on doors last month? More doors? Hold on, let's call Jeff.
Capital improvements with these doors. Now, I know some of the previous facilities directors, especially here at the high school campus, have been trying to replace X amount per year because they are getting to be in concerning shape. In my mind, from the areas that I've walked through, I'm concerned about the emergency egress in large areas.
Right.
So we had 3 quotes from 3 different vendors for egress doors in the library, the cafeteria, and the gymnasium. Both the interior doors of the gymnasium and the exterior doors of the gymnasium. And 2 other office doors. So everyone's been the scope is the same for all 3 vendors. They're quoting the same doors, the same hardware. And
Can't reuse the hardware? No.
we can reuse the frames, but that's about
I'm
it.
just kidding. We always talk about the hardware being the most expensive part. You had to be there. You weren't there, so I apologize. You weren't there for the Jeff Scott jokes. I mean, it was consistent. How about it, Rob? It was just every time. It's like, more doors? How much for the hardware? That would be the first question you'd ask. So I'm sorry, guys.
I'll tell you, the hardware seems like it's...
It's a car. It should start and drive me to work.
So the vendors that we obtained proposals from were AG Morrow, Liberty Door Systems, and James Dorcheck. James Dorcheck came in at $134,636. AG Morrow came in at $144,075. Liberty Door Systems came in at $144,132.58.
So what was the first one? Who was the first one?
James Dorcheck.
James Dorcheck? Okay.
I had conversations with Kathleen Haynes and asked her in relation to the numbers, if this was doable for the capital improvements, and she said yes.
Okay.
I just wanted to throw the numbers out there. I'm comfortable with going with any one of these vendors. I've seen all of them, all of their work. I have no problem.
Unless the other 2 want to come down $10,000, I can't imagine not going with Dorcheck. I mean, the doors are exactly the same.
Correct.
So, is it something you want to do over the summer then? Something we want to try and put on for
Yes,
next week?
I was hoping that we could hopefully move forward so we could do the lead times of materials
So it's
and then plan this based on the project.
the egress doors for the library, cafeteria, and gym, and then the interior doors also for the
There
cafeteria.
were just 2 miscellaneous individual
And-
office doors.
And 2, okay. So there are all the egress doors for library, cafeteria, and gym, and then 2 office doors with all the hardware, locking mechanisms. Now egress,
There's a side, the window like this.
Right.
That would include, providing the options of recessed handles, panic hardware on the inside.
right?
The ability to put cords in certain doors if the district ever decided that they wanted to put cords in those doors.
I got you.
Instead of being emergency egress only.
I got you.
So we have the ability.
Taking me up over my 1 meeting limit on what is no, I'm kidding. Any objections? We've got to do them, right?
Gotta do it.
Got to do it.
And like I said, those were my main areas of concern, being large, potential to have large groups there. I think they are paramount versus any of the other doors.
Plus, it's an egress door. You can't have it fail. It just can't happen. So I get it.
Some of these doors, I have to throw my shoulder to,
Right.
you know, and some of the cable mechanisms.
Is there any warranty on them at all?
Are broken.
Is there a warranty on them at all? They give you 5. Can we buy the extended service plan? No. I know a guy. Right? Former district office primary center? That's what's on your list, former district primary office primary center?
I guess that's for Rob.
Yeah, Dr. Cooper, you can chime in here too. We've been in consultation with our solicitor. As you know, previously, the primary center renovations were done there probably a decade ago now. They were rolled into one of the refinance deals, which at a certain point in time prevented us from redoing that or getting rid of that building. We are now in a position at the venue, if the board wants to do this, if we do choose to do so, to put that building out there on the market. We obviously currently lease that out, and we have some tenants in there. However, there is significant cost, which we're trying to put together in regards to maintaining the building and other reasons too. And we believe there's a market for it based on our Birdsboro and what happened there, and the number of people that we have.
No action required from us, though, right? Just other than,
Well, I think that if we would have to authorize, to start off with, if this is what we want to look into, we'd have to get an assessment.
do you know the square footage that we rented out for is
I don't have that off the top.
No, I do know that it's
Yeah.
below, it's ridiculously low.
Absolutely.
So
But we
it doesn't
would-
offset our cost of the building. That's the,
But if we wanted to even entertain any offers, we would need to do our due diligence
Right.
like we did before to get appraisers,
Right.
appraisers. So that's what we would have to authorize funds for.
okay, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that would be prudent.
Well, not for this, we'd have to recommend
yeah.
that the board.
Yeah,
I
we're not saying until we get those back, we're not saying to do anything. What
No.
we can say is there are repairs because of the building itself. There are certainly repairs. Every time we send people over there, we have 4 maintenance guys for our whole district. They're not doing work here for
Right.
us, and so you not only have the costs that we're required to make in the lease, which probably doesn't come from the board. I'll let Kathy speak to that, or I won't get here. But we're also dealing with our maintenance people going over there when we really need them working on installing doors, for example, and
Right.
things like that.
My question would be if we went down that path of getting appraisals. I don't think it hurts to get an appraisal. You're not selling anything with an appraisal, number one. Number two, we want to look at the overall cost. What's our net income off of them, right? And what's our net cost? And that we can look at and go, wait a minute, we're spending $500,000 a year to break even.
That's what we did with
not
the
count-
old Birdsboro building
Yeah.
as well.
And then
so-
the other piece of it too is if we want to not let the building go, because we have fear that we're going to have this population explosion, which I don't see happening. It's going the other direction for the most part. We may consider going a net lease. I've never rented a commercial building ever and it was always bothersome. I'd get the building and then 2 weeks later, there's holes in the roof that I got to repair, because I didn't do the due diligence of checking or whatever, or something blew up, that we had to repair, so.
Keep in mind that if we did want to go back to using that building, if we wanted to, pick out our tenants and bring students in, the building itself still is not
Up to
ADA
code.
compliant by
Right.
a long shot.
I'm with you.
So that would not be a zero-sum
Right.
situation.
I'm not suggesting.
I'm not- I
But it's a good
absolutely-
point to bring up. You're right. Yep,
Absolutely,
you're right.
but, I don't know, I kind of feel like
I'd
it
like
would
to-
hurt to find out what it's worth.
Well, when we looked at Birdsboro and what our actual expense was to keep an empty building, made no sense at all. It was a
When
lot
you
of money.
started looking at those numbers.
It was a lot of money.
I mean, right now, the
Easily over
building
$500,000 a
is
year.
Of use to some members of our community. We
Yep.
do have two alternate schools there, and we have the senior center for Berks County for our area, for southern, I guess, eastern Berks or southern.
Oh, the
Berks.
Encore.
The Encore, and, and so, which is, so it is at least doing, even if we're not bringing in a huge amount of money, at least it is doing some good in our community. But it wouldn't be bad to find out if maybe, like,
Well,
what we could get for it on the
Is
market.
that the intermediate center building? What building?
The primary
original one.
Primary.
The original primary center.
Okay,
It's right next to the intermediate center.
okay.
Well, we've often said this, we're not landlords. We're in the business of
Right.
educating kids, right?
Right.
So, and then two, it's just a math issue. I mean, if we were breaking net and we were doing something great for the community,
Right.
I'd probably be like, well, what the heck? There's no harm in keeping the
Yeah.
asset as long as it didn't cost us any money, but it's not the case. So that would be my
There's
first.
some weird things about that building. There's some weird things about that building maintenance-wise. I mean, don't they have well water there? Or do they have city water? Yeah, okay, so I thought that they still had well water there. But-
Yeah, I'm for getting it, having appraisers come in and look at it and see what the value is. I mean, it can't be much more than Birdsboro. I can't imagine. I don't know. Maybe.
So what's the step to do that? We have to
We
approve the
just have
funds to get the
approve money for
appraisal
the
done?
two- Yeah, we need 2 appraisals
Okay.
in order for it to pass muster with the courts. So we would have to authorize
for that.
money for that. And then we didn't start entertaining bids. We're just
Right.
And I have to ask, I would have to ask the question because I had no idea what Thompson did to the Birdsboro building for $85,000 was actually, I mean, it was my first meeting. I had no idea what we were voting on. And when I looked at what they did for $85,000, I choked on it. I mean, I felt responsible for throwing
That wasn't a necessity.
I know, but I'm saying before, and I would like to get these appraisals done, but I would have to know how much they are. Like, I don't want to be surprised. Oh, 2 appraisals, not a problem. It's $70,000. What? I know they shouldn't be much money, but I have to ask the question.
Can we move can we recommend it to be an added consent item, but the dollar amount not to exceed?
Do we have any idea what they cost for Birdsboro?
I don't.
We would have to go back and take a look at past meeting minutes and see what they charge.
Yeah, I don't have the point of
We might be able to
reference.
have that answered by the committee of the whole. for
Okay, that's
discussion.
fine. Yeah, I'm for appraising
Yeah.
them. I just
No,
want
I
to know how
understand.
much it's going to be. 'Cause I learned to ask how much.
Yeah, absolutely.
So no, it's a good point of view. It really is. Anything else for the facilities piece?
Are you finished with that?
Yep, we are.
Okay, under miscellaneous, you have another one?
Thank you, sir.
All right, the item that we're looking to further discuss and bring to the attention of facilities and transportation, you have what I printed off for you is email correspondence I received this morning from our contracted service providers for transportation. And we had met with our transportation providers on Thursday of last week. We had opened up round 2 of bids. If you remember, we went back out with RFP for transportation contracted services, and the costs that came back in, we reached out on Monday to see if our current providers were interested in meeting to further discuss some pricing. So what you see in front of you is the email we received, and then some other cost figures they came back to us with. Which was an adjustment from their original RFP the second time around. The second time around RFP was lower than what the first time around was. you're looking at the first time it was like a 47% increase the first year. Then it went to, I think it's about a 37% increase, and this shows a 31% increase over that. And the second RFP and the first one were additional 5.5% per year in the second, third, fourth, and fifth year of the agreement. This one you can see came back at a 3% or CPI, so it was an adjustment over what the RFP was. I wanted to throw these numbers in front of the board to see if you had any questions for us, or if you had any questions for...
So there's no first 1 year, there's no 1 year first hop here? In other
Yes,
words,
it would be about a 31% increase.
31?
About a 31% increase from current year to that first year of the agreement 22-23. So currently where it's about 272 a run, would grow to 357.29, which the second RFP was about 364. The first one in this pricing model was, I think, in the neighborhood of 389. I believe in the original RFP, somewhere around there.
So it was 272 and now it's 357?
Correct.
Does that include the gas?
It does not include fuel.
And the question I have too is the 3% or CPI. So if CPI is 4, we go from 3 to 4. If CPI is 5, we go from 3 to 5. If CPI is 1, we stay at 3.
Correct.
Doesn't seem real fair. I do have a question. Maybe you can help me out. Why a 31% increase on year one? Because I don't know. I'm not questioning it like, I'm throwing a dagger. I just don't understand. 31's a lot.
Inflation. A lot of it is labor costs. I don't know if you saw the article that was in the paper yesterday or today about schools and their issues with finding employees. We're facing the same thing. They even address school buses in there. We're going to have to increase wages in order to attract and retain drivers. So that's what a good portion of this is. Another part of it is inflation, cost of the vehicles, cost of the supplies, insurance, all that.
Has your insurance gone up? 31%?
Not 31.
Okay. I'm just, it's, again, we're looking at this as the driver's wages planning to go up 31%. If you go across the board,
Well, they didn't, but under a new contract, they would go up significantly.
significantly, are you anticipating 31% as an offer to them? These are just questions. I'm not tying you down to it. I'm trying to understand. If everything went up 31%, I can see some of it, just trying to understand it.
Wages, it would be probably in that area. But then there's other things. Tires, we're paying double what we were 2 years ago.
Right.
So not necessarily one specific item, the overall average.
Is fuel extra right now?
Yes, fuel, we pay extra for fuel. It's not included in the daily run rates.
What's not included?
Fuel.
And I am going to ask the question, and thank you for that answer, by the way. I appreciate it. Candor is important to me. 3% is not something we've been doing in any of our contracts moving forward, because CPI hadn't been out of crazy for years, and under the current administration, it seems to be going nuts. And I see it. Everybody sees it. Everybody feels weight. And, after COVID, everybody's feeling. You can't get employees. Almost across the board, everybody's feeling it. Food costs are up. Everybody's going up. And so I don't know if we'd ever be able to hold to those numbers long term. But if we went with CPI, we always had, if there's not going to be a cap, if there's no cap, why should there be a basement? And so I don't see 3% as a fair option. It's just my opinion. I'm just one person on the board. I don't think 3% is fair. If it's going to go up to 4, we go up to 4. If it goes up to 6, we go up to 6. If it goes up to 8, it goes up to 8. But if it goes down to 1, nobody benefits. You benefit off of that. Why would it be that way?
Actually, our proposal was for a 5.5% increase per year. And we came back with this thinking that hopefully inflation will not be as bad as going forward as what we projected. And that way, if it's not, it's going to save cost and save you.
I agree with that
No way.
statement 100%. 100%. My only question is,
That's my point.
is the bottom. In other words, if you were looking at 5.5 to protect yourself from a runaway inflation, which I understand completely, and I don't disagree with that. And so you're protecting that by saying we're going to go with CPI. So if we have a runaway inflation, you're protected. But if it sinks to the bottom again, you're going to benefit. We don't get the benefit with you there. If you have a problem with taking that 3% as a minimum out, there's- what's,
Not out completely.
you understand what I'm saying though? Because if it drops down to 1%, you're looking for inflationary cost increases. Is that correct?
How about splitting the difference in two? I mean, I'm just asking,
I'm just saying,
just to like.
It's just swing both ways is what I'm saying.
CPI or something, I'm just asking.
Then negotiate that.
that's fine. I just want to know, is it a point of negotiation? Just because I think if we don't have a cap, okay, we should have no basement. If we have a cap, then there should, if there's no cap at all, then there should be no basement and vice versa. So I think it should be both ways. Is where and again, I'm one person on the board, so I was going to ask, so you are open for negotiations on that?
We can negotiate some, but it can not be no
I understand.
minimum at all.
I understand.
You might be able to
I understand, yeah, that's,
compromise a little bit
yeah.
from
But you understand where I'm coming from? I mean, if it goes down to 1%,
Well, it doesn't have to be no minimum at all, but if
Right.
it's high, the CPI.
but if CPI goes down to 1%, I mean, CPI is going to be something.
CPI is 7,
Yeah.
and we're going to wind up paying 7. CPI doesn't apply.
That's
I mean,
that's
it's
a
time
concern for me.
CPI should work both ways.
I don't see CPI going that way.
Well,
I don't either. Not for a while.
We're
But
not, yeah.
I agree with you. But if it's you don't see it there and we don't see it there, but if it does, I think it's fair to say that if we're going to crawl up with the CPI, we should also crawl down with it. That's all I'm saying. That's just my opinion. I think that's fair. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, I don't really have any other questions.
I'd like to make a comment. I understand the 31% increase isn't just one thing. Most buses went up 18 to 20%. The wages are another 10 or 12%. And all the parts and everything that go with it higher. So you seem to think that it was just one thing and it's not.
I actually do understand it because the number that you're giving me here at 3,457, just to say, we'll use 357. That's your total number. That's your employee cost. That's your insurance cost. It's everything. So if I increase that 31%, I'm assuming then, because you wouldn't take just the cost of the bus 18, and the cost of this is 24, and this is 40. So if the average is 31%, then I'd understand it. That makes sense, and that's what I was looking for.
Okay.
But you don't stack them. You can't stack them. It doesn't work. Does that make sense? So it is a 31% saying that the buses are 31%. Because technically, if you take all your increases, we're saying across the board. And you're right. I mean, look at the cost of a car today. It's not going to stay there. You're going to be in a position in the next 2 years, or maybe even 3 years, when you're going to be able to negotiate for the cost of buses again. You won't be able for a car for a while yet. So they're looking at probably 2 or 3 years before they get back on their feet and start producing product again. So I understand it, but that's where I was at. So 31% increase is saying that our overall, everything thrown into a bucket, expenses, all that is going up 31%. That's what I'm.
Another thing to consider, you're looking at that top tier price. We have this in 3 tiers. So in reality, you should average the 357.29, the 350.67, and the 343.10.
And
Take a look
average
at
it.
an average price, which is not going to be 31.
So it might be a little bit less.
350.
Yep.
Would be about
Yeah,
350 is
it'll be
the
better
average.
than
Yeah. So
What is, if I may ask a question, in the email itself, talking about price or ages of the bus, like how many, is there a certain specific number of buses that you would be looking to purchase in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5? Would you look to purchase more in the first year, less in the second year, less in the third year? Is that kind of built in there for you?
For me, it would be more the first year, but that provision that we put in, for calculating the average and minimum 50%, if we exclude the spare buses, that helps us out in that we don't have to buy quite as many. So that's how we were able to adjust the price.
Is there a specific number of buses you're looking at over the course of the 5 years, or year 1 versus year 2? have a,
I don't remember the exact breakdown. Under this provision, I think I would need to buy at least three this year, maybe four. Over the course of 5 years, I think it was probably 12 to 14.
We go for new roads also.
about the same.
Yeah.
What we'd like to do is buy 3 or 4 each,
A year.
and then not get caught in what our first proposal, that number was high. I was gonna have to buy 12 buses to meet the specs of the contract.
Which is why you put the alternate
Just for year
in.
one.
Yeah,
Right.
so we like to buy 3 or 4 a year. That's much easier to handle than 12 or 14 and 100 grand apiece. So, yeah, we will update our fleets per the contract, and if we update them and get in the first category, we can make more money. But we can't buy a school bus for $7 a day or $15 a day. That's why we put the tiers in there.
Right. So what would, let's say you go purchase 3 or 4 buses in year one, how much of, and I don't know if you have this broken down, how much of that $357.29 cost is tied up in the purchase of those 3 or 4 buses, or, for each company?
I don't have that number here. I mean, we did calculate it.
Yeah. Well, I'm just, the reason I asked that, would it be more beneficial for the district to have that number come down lower and then perhaps give a stipend amount to help defray the cost of the buses in that first year? That's, I mean,
You want
this-
to on that?
Do you really think that would benefit the district? Do it that way? I mean, it's
Instead
pretty
of-
much.
It is, but I think what happens is when you start putting the daily rate up to a certain amount, it continues to climb year over year. Whereas if you're helping with defraying the cost of some of the buses, keeping that year over year number a little bit lower at the front end, by the time we come back out around to 5 years, that number's not so significantly inflated. So it's just a different way of looking at things.
Well, the thing is, yeah, that would help the first year, but, I normally finance a bus for 6 years, so that would be good for the first year, but then the rest of the time, that's not going to help. But, like Steve said, that's why we came up with the 3 separate tiers. They somewhat coincide with the reimbursement ratios that we get from Harrisburg.
That's just throwing that out there as a different way of looking at things too. So.
Play with that. But
Yeah.
that's my concern offhand is, yeah, it's good for year one, but after that, still making payments on those buses.
And just so you understand, I'm not taking a shot at you about the 31%, by the way. I'm just trying to understand it. You know what I mean? So, 'cause if a bus is 20%, somewhere else it's got to be 40% to have an average 30%. And that's where I was heading, to try and get an understanding of the cost of your businesses. Not that I could possibly get it in this meeting, I understand that, but just to kind of get some more insight, and I appreciate the insight that you gave me. It does give me a little bit of a bigger picture than what we're talking about, so I appreciate it. Sit down, talk about it. I don't have any other question. Anybody else?
Well, I appreciate Rose and Klein for agreeing to kind of sit down with us and kind of muddle through this process because obviously we are in some times that are different than what we've experienced before. Navigating inflation and the cost of things and something that we're making sure that we're going to be reach out and kind of get what the board was talking about tonight. We'll reach out again.
I
Thank you.
appreciate you guys coming in to talk to us, once the bidding process is closed as well. I really appreciate it a lot.
We do. Any other comments? Anything else for the good of the order? All right, well, that'll end our meeting.